has helped me get some of my content out there. If you have a video where you are super respectful and you are being treated outrageously, theagitator.org is a great place to take your content, and they'll give you a great link to your blog that will give you a few hundred hits a day for a few days. What's that?
Carlos Miller.
I don't know Carlos Miller.
Bradley links to him a lot. He is a.
I'm sure I've been to his site then.
He's a photojournalist from Florida.
Oh, this is Photography is Not a Crime.
Yes,
yeah, that's another good one. Yep. Yeah, Photography is Not a Crime.org. Carlos Miller, right, of course.
On his site, it was linked to by Radley. If you check out the Agitator, there's a really, really great interaction between Ron Paul supporter coming back from a book signing and a TSA agent, and the Ron Paul supporter. He had an iPhone where it's got something you shake it, and some application you shake it and it starts recording.
Yeah.
I have no idea which it is, but there's a 5-6 minute recording of this interaction. It got played on Fox News, and they sound like children. And the guy, to me, was a perfect example of how to interact with any sort of authority, especially because they aren't police officers and don't have the same rights to search.
Papersplease.org maybe is an avenue. I've actually never gone to papersplease.org, but I've learned a lot from them, but I've never asked them to repost any of my content. But they do stop and identify laws or show ID laws. So those are at least a few. I mean, if you're really shooting for the sky, if you've got a great piece of content, I mean, Boing Boing is a possibility, or Daily Post, or Huffington Post, or there's, you know.
Have you ever been put in a position where you were presenting video and code as evidence and they questioned the credibility of the video content?
Yes, yes. Exactly one time.
What do you do in a situation like that?
You know, the claim was that the video didn't depict the entire encounter and that I started recording, you know, after certain elements of the encounter that were central to the case had taken place. And all I said was, you know, this is, you know, I asked you to believe me, this is the entirety of the encounter, and, you know, I think that this in itself shows, you know, is sufficient evidence. I lost that case, though. Kind of. Then we drove the judge out of town, so it ended up being good. Yeah.
Have you ever had an instance where your camera was confiscated and then, like, once I guess you were released from holding the video magically disappeared from your camera?
No, I've never had that. I have had one time. I was at Union Square, 14th Street, New York City, and some people came up to me. Now this is interesting. There are a whole bunch of people skateboarding, kind of like a big group of black people on one side, and white and some Latino people kind of near on the steps. And these two guys were walking around, and I think other people were suspicious of them, but they were talking to this girl who was white, and she came over and said that she had been informed that they were undercover cops, and that they had asked where they could buy some weed in Union Square, which is like asking where you can buy a pepper at a farmer's market. But you know. And so, you know, I got up, went over, and put my video camera on them, and shot a little bit of video, and got ready to take a photo. And the guy came up, took my camera out of my hands. This is why I have this really like ghetto lens cap tether. He broke my lens cap tether, and took my camera out of my hands. And so then I ended my call to my podcast tonight and instead called 911 and said my camera's just been stolen. And I don't know whether there was enough coordination for them to know. I have no idea if they knew, because I'm describing the two guys and where they're walking, and I have no idea if the dispatcher, I figure they're probably not in the know because there's so many cops in New York City. But then I don't know if I'm on a Union Square area dispatch, or I don't know. But they ended up saying they just didn't want to be photographed and wanted me to delete the photo. So I was able to give the appearance that I deleted the photo and move on. But it wasn't really a good photo anyway, so I never did anything with it. But that was a little bit of a scary situation. Being without your camera when it's your defense mechanism is rough. Now, if you're ever in a situation where you do think you have to call 911 as part of one of these encounters, 911's recorded, and you can get the copy of the recording, you know, very easily. So, yeah.
Well, I was just wondering because I keep thinking like how you get away with like videotaping these things. So was that like the only instance where they've taken the camera?
The only one ever. Yep.
That's crazy. I can't even believe it. That's really, it's good. No, I think it's really good.
Well, one thing is, okay, our perception of police officers is shaped by the way they act when they think no one is watching. You know, that is by and large the perception that we have of police officers. And that for different individuals that happen to be police officers, that manifests different things. Some of them are kind of very joking and nonchalant, more than you'd expect a police officer to be. Some of them are really hard asses and threatening more than you'd expect a police officer to be. But when you put a video camera on a cop, this weird thing happens and they suddenly become a government agent. You know, they suddenly become a little more prim, a little more proper, and a little more beholden to the regulatory structure that they're a part of. And I mean, that phenomenon I've seen time and time and time and time again. And really, if you want to do it right, if you're trying to start a police watch at your campus or anything like that, for one thing, you really got to have a Twitter or a way to keep in touch. And I'd love to come to schools and teach you how to do that. But it's really good if you've got 2 cameras on the scene. You're really kind of, because no cop ever wants to be in a situation where he's got his hands on your camera with another camera rolling, you know. But again, it varies a lot state by state. And you know, there are big legal questions there, and you have to figure out what kind of risks you're willing to take. Micah.
Yeah. It seems to me that in order for a lot of people to feel comfortable with this, there needs to be, you know, an assurance that the evidence isn't going to be destroyed, right?
Yeah.
And I know you were talking about how there are some things that aren't ready for, you know, prime time yet, where you can broadcast or something. Do you know of any cameras that come equipped with like 3G network or some way to, you know, I mean, is that technology that
You're forcing me to plug the iPhone? Is that what this is
No,
about?
no, no.
I know I don't like Apple, but yes, all right. If you happen to have an iPhone, you can download a piece of software called Quick.
It's not video.
Yeah, no, download the Quick application and you can actually shoot live video. You can't store the video on the iPhone, but you can in fact shoot video that will be stored on a website.
Really?
QIK. And it supports a number of different phones, but only really the higher end phones. But it's got support for like 50 or 60 different phones, but most of them I've never heard of, and the ones that I have are super high end. Yeah, and by the way, very important, don't forget, anybody with a cell phone can record audio off-site just by getting an account and a recorded conference call line. The one that I like is thebasementventures.com, but there are a million of them. Just sign up for a free account at a conference call recording site, figure out what codes you need to plug in to make it start recording, and if you can do pauses on your phone, which almost every cell phone can insert a 2-second pause, then you know you can make it so that when you dial it, it enters the conference number, the PIN, and the recording code all in a row, which is what I do. And then you know you got essentially you put that on your speed dial, and you've got a 2-button off-site voice recorder.
It sounds like you have like quite a few of these like police interactions. I was just wondering if you could give some examples of how to create a scenario where you do have a police interaction while like, you know, leaving some leeway so you're not gonna get arrested.
Well, creating a scenario is somewhat different than asserting your own rights, you know. And when I do the full day radical technology teaching, I talk about both. You know, it's just such a heavy question for me to try to answer in 5 minutes. But in the most basic sense, go to a place where there are disadvantaged people, people of color perhaps, and you know, walk around with you and a couple of friends, and you know, you'll probably find police encounters that are ready, you know, very ready to be recorded if that's what you really want to do. I think it's fun. For me, it's recreation in addition to activism, but. You know, I don't know if I don't think I could possibly talk about creating a scenario. Yeah.
And one more question. Like if you're doing a third party, how do you get the like microphones like and like videotape at the same time? Do you like have to like get up like really close to like the police interaction, or do you just kind of stand at a distance?
Well, what I do, one thing again, your equipment matters, and there are. I mean, not to plug my hardware again, but the Cann S series from the S2 forward all have really good stereo condenser microphones. I love the microphone in that guy. If I'm far away enough that I think that my camera isn't hearing the same thing I'm hearing, I'll repeat. If I can hear it, I'm a little ways away, I'm maybe behind a tree, and I'm watching a really aggressive encounter, and I hear the cop say things that I think are inappropriate, or I hear the person, or not necessarily, I hear something that I think is relevant. I'll usually repeat it. I'll say, oh, now the officer said,